Hey, how you doing? Welcome back to the Brothers from Inglewood podcast. I'm Hoopie, your host, coming to you live and direct from the studio once again. Hopefully you'll enjoy this episode. I believe it's interesting as well as informative. And before I go any further, I want to ask that you would like, subscribe, share, and press the notification button so that you'll be abreast every single time we air. And without further ado, I just want to say that it has been an exciting week this week. We're here at the weekend now, and so many different things are taking place here in Southern Cal. We know that football is king at this present time. Also, the ladies and men are playing volleyball, but we know that there are high school, collegiate, and pro games that we await for this remaining of the weekend. We also have a wonderful fall tournament that's taking place here in Southern Cal in the area of South Torrance, as well as paying tribute to a fallen coach who passed away. He was the head coach of Palos Verdes High School, and they are actually putting this event on in honor of his memory, and they are raising funds for this particular event. And so we say kudos to Coach Cantani, who is hosting, or at least one of the hosts of this tournament. I know a lot of you that are viewing around the country may not be familiar with some of the names that I've just mentioned, but Coach Cantani is a Hall of Fame coach who coached at Fairfax High School and has been fortunate to coach many top prep and collegiate talent through that program. And so we just want to say thanks, Coach Katani, for what you're doing this weekend for the young people, the parents, and of course the family of this fallen coach at Palos Verdes High School. I'm so sorry I didn't get his name recorded. I should have done that prior to coming on, but we do send our condolences, and we send our well wishes to the family, to the friends and colleagues of this great high school coach. Well, I was really trying to gather more information as well as guests that would talk about the subject that I discussed a few days ago on manhood. And I want to continue that discussion about our absence in the community and in the family structure at large regarding development, child development at that. So I want to really speak to this issue, and I consider it an issue because we see the results that the young people are producing, and it's not all positive. And so I just kind of want to talk about a few characteristics of what manhood is, and I want to ask that you would put something in the comments, that you would share your position on what we see and what we know as manhood in society today. I was just in a market. I believe it was. It wasn't. I think it was Whole Foods, and I was there asking about items that I was interested in obtaining, and then I just kind of struck a conversation with someone, and we were talking about youth of America. We were talking about what we see in our youth community and how they lack certain qualities that we shared, or we once shared, down through the years. For some of us who are beyond 50 and who has seen some quality structure and teaching, know what I'm talking about as it relates to where we are today. And I'm not downing our young people. I'm not criticizing. I'm not trying to be critical of the parenting in this particular day and era, but I am very concerned about the conduct, the behavior, even the thought process of our youth. I know a lot of things have changed, technological advancement, and a lot of freedom and independence through the judicial system. But there are some things that are just fundamental that we need to get back to, that we need to address, that we need to sit down and have conversations with. We need to do it first and foremost from our homes. We need to sit our children down. We need to talk with them. We need to hear their voice. We shouldn't be dogmatic and overbearing. We shouldn't be overly aggressive, ruling our children with the iron fist, but we should sit down and engage with them. We should see what our youth are facing. We should talk to them and see where they are in their lives. And we should be, I think, more empathetic to the things that they're facing, because a lot of times we are unaware of what our children are experiencing on a day-to-day basis outside of our homes. We fail to understand what they deal with emotionally and where they are in that psychological and emotional state. Do we have, I would say, well checks? Do we check on our children? Do we talk to them? Do we try to look for traits and look for attributes that may lead us to believe that they're suicidal, that they're depressed, that they're angry, that they're bitter? You know, we have to engage with our young people to see how we can assist them, how we can help them. Some situations are special. They're special need cases, and maybe we don't have the economic, financial prowess to get the help that some of them may need, if that's the case. But I really believe that there are programs out here that's available to, let's just say, less fortunate or economically challenged families. I like to just simply label it as disenfranchised families, families that are poverty stricken and they just don't have the resources and finances to do a lot of the things that are necessary to assist their young people. You're probably asking, why am I so adamant and so consistent with this conversation? Because I believe that we need to have this conversation. We need to talk to our young people. We need to learn what is going on in the youth community surrounding Youth of America. I believe that we can learn as adults, that we will be astonished as to the skill set, the knowledge, the ability, the talent that our young people have. I've learned so many technological things from my children just through my telephone, my cell phone, learning how to use certain technological instruments, from my iPad to my desktop to just the gadgets, my watch phone. So I just believe that we can learn as adults from our young people, but we can also teach as adults our young people. I believe that chivalry is not dead. I know it sounds like I'm jumping around, but when we're dealing with young people, especially manhood, these are fundamental doctrines that we should suggest and that we should actually teach our young men. The boys that are in grade school, they're not too young to learn how to be courteous, how to be polite, how to be kind, how to be mature. And I mean mature in a way to where we can help them curb some of that behavior that speaks volumes about their maturity. Sometimes we do things that we think are cool, or we do things that are comfortable and convenient without understanding that those things can also be a deterrent. It can turn people off. It can rub them the wrong way. And it happens every day in the classroom. I have several friends who are teachers, they're educators. They teach various grades from elementary, middle school to high school. And they encounter a lot of things that we just don't know, we're not aware of when they leave the house. You would be surprised, parent, what your child is like outside of your home, outside of the confines of your care and your supervision. We just don't realize, we can't imagine what our kids say when they're out of our presence, what our kids do when they're out of our presence. And I believe that no, we can't police our children and go to work. We can't be in two places at the same time. But I believe the teaching starts at home. It starts right there in your home to where you can instill the correct things in your kid that will help them mature and serve society in the right way. Manhood has a lot of layers. It has a lot of components. Age, I spoke about this before. Chronological age has something to do with manhood, but more importantly, it has everything to do with how we're raised, what our culture is like, what our customs are, what our belief system is. How do we think pertaining to certain subjects, certain occurrences, experiences? How do we process these things? And we know that manhood has a lot to do with being a male. The gender calls for us to develop from adolescence into adulthood. So I think manhood has to take on more than just a biological term or description by which we use it. I think manhood speaks to maturity. It speaks to qualification, or it speaks to preparation. I think we prepare for manhood. We actually go through the cycle or go through the process of developing as a man. And then what entails manhood when you get there, when you reach manhood? How am I supposed to act? How am I supposed to think? What am I supposed to do? What constitutes my manhood? Is it the way I talk? Is it the way I dress? Is it the way I think? Is it the way I pretty much carry myself in society? What is manhood? I think a lot of times we have to define the term of manhood, because sometimes we have a totally different view of it and understanding of it and definition of it. We know if we go into Webster's dictionary, it will give us a fundamental explanation, and that is concise, but we still need to know how that works. How do I walk that out in my practical life? What is it that makes me the man that I think I am, or the man I would like to become? Am I a man when I reach a certain age, and after that, am I good? Did I accomplish my goal? Did I reach that chronological age to where now everyone that's around me will know that I'm in manhood? There's just so many areas that we need to speak to, and we need to uplift as well as expose, so that we can get our young people on track. And I know that this pretty much sounds like an episode strictly about men, but it's not so much exclusive about men, because without a woman, we could have never been birthed into what we know as life. So we know that a female, a woman, has a huge part of our coming into existence, our lifespan, and even being nurtured. We're taught. Our first teacher is our mothers. Our first teacher is the woman. And I don't want that to be downplayed. I don't want people to think that women doesn't matter because we're talking about this subject. I'm just speaking to the fact that we work together as a unit, for a mother and a father to come together to create or procreate. They're both equally responsible for that child's development. And so when we look at society and we realize that there are a lot of single parents, there are men raising their children just as much as there are women raising their children. I know that men get a lot of flack, we get a lot of negativity, we get a lot of blowback for not being there for our children, not being a solid father, a solid parent in that child's life, being an absentee. I wrote a book, and I speak specifically to this. I like to call it a disorder. Anytime there is a split in the family, some form of fracture and breakup, it really becomes difficult for that entire family unit, that family structure that doesn't have both parents in it is very, very crucial. And I'm not going to go into the statistics of what society has deemed as, the cause of certain issues that we see in young men for not having their fathers in their lives. And, we go through those statistics all the time. And I think it's a fair assessment, but it's not always the case. It's like a case by case thing. Some people say, well, hey, he got into this young boy who developed into a teenager. He got into trouble because his father wasn't there. He became angry, and he's an aggressive individual because he didn't have a dad, or he doesn't know how to love women, or he doesn't know how to show empathy and sympathy for people and for things. So it's all because he didn't have his father growing up. I think those are stereotypes in a sense, because I can speak to my own personal experience of not actually being raised by my biological father, but knowing that the love was there. I knew that my father loved my brothers and I knew my father showed love. I knew that he was an affectionate man. He was a very kind man. He was a good father for the time that he was in our life. And I saw the good in him. I saw his innate ability to connect with my brothers and I, to care for us, to love us. So even though after I reached a certain age and my father wasn't in the home anymore, I don't say that I turned into a bad person or I became defiant to the laws in society, or I became, angry and all of these different emotions that are acted out or actually carried out in the lives of young people. I just think that we should have this discussion. Sometimes it does have a bearing on young men when their parents separate, or if they lose a parent to incarceration or to death. It does play a significant part in that child's life. But It's supposed to. I mean, we're human beings. We're young people. We don't know a lot, or we haven't learned what we will come into the knowledge of in our adolescence. I mean, how do you put that type of demand on a child, especially a boy? Um, I don't believe that a boy can be taught by his mother how to be a man. I believe a man teaches a boy how to be a man. I believe that it's a kindred spirit. There is a physical likeness. There is a uh, experiential, element to it, to where that man can identify with that young boy because that man was once a young boy. And that young boy will become a man and will be able to relate to his father as a man when he comes into manhood. So I just think that it's imperative that we begin to teach, we begin to talk about the importance of child development, adolescence, and manhood. I believe that manhood constitutes more than just, and I don't mean to sound redundant and to repeat myself, it's more than an age. Manhood has so um, much importance as it relates to coming into responsibility, coming into accountability, coming into a level of maturity. We as men coming into manhood must understand that we're obligated, we're responsible for our actions, and accountability, responsibility, and these things matter. They matter in manhood. They matter, especially when you begin to bring children into the equation. If you're old enough, or you think you're mature enough to impregnate a woman or impregnate a young lady at an early stage of life, you're going to have to learn how to be there for the young lady, be there for the woman, engage yourself with that responsibility. Now it's more about the young lady and the child, and it's in that order. You have to be concerned about the young lady and about the child that you all are parenting in this situation, and you're gonna have to find ways to be present and find ways to produce. I think when I was younger, especially as a boy growing up in the city of Inglewood, I was often challenged with responsibility. My mom was very keen on responsibility and being honest. Honesty was the highest thing on my mother's list. She did not like liars. She doesn't like liars to this day. She does not believe or approve of you not telling the truth. She believes that you should tell the truth and you should deal with the consequence, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. And I took on that responsibility and accountability. I would say I took on accountability for how she raised my brothers and I felt responsible for my actions. I learned responsibility for my actions. I didn't run from them. I didn't deny them. I'm not a perfect man. I'm not saying that I've never told a lie or I've never tried to get out from under something that I was confronted with. But consistently in my life, my nature, my understanding was to own what trouble I was in, what mistakes I made. I was taught, I was developed by my mom in that area to be accountable. And so I felt when I began to have children, and my ex-wife and I were raising our children together in the home, and we were trying to be the best parents that we could be, I held my sons and my daughter to the same standard. Tell the truth, regardless to the consequence. Be honest. If you're honest with me and your mom, we're able to better serve and assist you. But when you're not honest, then there are some dark areas, there's some blind spots that we're not aware of, that we aren't, or we won't be able to defend at at the right time and in record pace to be there to assist you. And so I made sure that I was responsible for sharing truthfully, transparently, honestly with my children. And so I believe that I was able to pass on not just my belief, not just my conviction, but the truth of accountability. Accountability is for us all. And if you're going to consider yourself as a man entering manhood or maintaining manhood, you're going to have to be accountable. You're going to have to be transparent. You're going to have to be one who is willing to own their wrong, to own their mistakes, to own their shortcomings. And so I need to emphasize the importance of understanding manhood as we face young people and youth of America in this modern day. I mentioned some of the things that took place in an area, a remote area that I was in. I occupied space in this wonderful, convenient area, and I was confronted, and I was confronted with some things that had nothing to do with me. I had no participation in what was being stated to me, but I realized that it derived from a stereotype, it derived from racial profiling, but it also was connected to the conduct of African American male and females. They were actually exercising misconduct. They were being disruptive. They were being aggressive. And they were breaking the laws. And with that environment comes a specific mindset. I'm not condoning wrong, and I'm not defending the law for mistaken identity or trying to get to the bottom of a matter, because it's their job. Law enforcement has a job to do. It's not an easy line of work, but at the same time, they're dealing with human beings. We're all human beings. And what am I saying? I'm saying that because of a lack of understanding and maturity and development, we are experiencing a lot of misconduct. I also can go to the spiritual element of what we experience in society. A lot of people may not agree with me. A lot of people may not be aware. They may not even believe in what I'm about to say, because this is not theory. This is a reality. And the reality is that we encounter various diverse spirits. If you don't believe in spirits, then let me just point this one thing out to you. Alcohol beverages is referred to as spirits. Drinking spirits. Well, what are you saying? It's called spirits for a reason, because when a person consumes enough alcohol and becomes inebriated, there are various personalities, changes, signs in their behavior that begins to show up. And these are spirits. There's a spirit of anger, There's a spirit of depression. There's a spirit of what I like to call it a falsetto. It's like you get this you get this we call it fake courage. Usually when people are high or under the influence of alcohol, they get this false courage thing going, and they become, all of a sudden they become tough. They become bold and aggressive. And then some people, alcohol makes them become afraid, leery, or anxious in some kind of way. So I know spirits exist because, number one, biblically it's stated as such, and then my experience. I've seen things happen in society. I've seen things happen to me. I've experienced an overwhelming urge to do certain things. Were those things inspired by good? Were those things inspired by something bad? But we're all human, and if we examine ourselves, we'll know and understand when we're what? Out of character. You know when you're out of character. That's why some people say, I don't drink because when I drink, I like to fight. Or I don't smoke because when I smoke, I get paranoid. Well, these are spiritual attacks that we open ourselves up to. It's like a portal, and we're opening ourselves up to the portal of attacks from the enemy. And so I know that there is a such thing as spirits and spiritual behavior, spiritual conduct, and just as easily as we are made aware of the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is the Spirit of God. It's the Ruach, the breath of God. And some of us refer to the Holy Spirit as the anointing of God, which is the presence of God that's in our life. But it's real. And some people don't believe in that because they're not religious. They don't subscribe to the Holy Bible as an inerrant word and book. So you have all types of beliefs, and you're entitled to your belief. But I know by experience, not just through book knowledge, not just through my brief scholarship, where I've studied certain things, I've experienced things in my own life. I didn't come out of my mother's womb as a born again believer. There was a process to me coming into the knowledge of my belief and my faith to where it drew a decision. I had to make a decision. I made a choice. So manhood has a lot to do with our development, our exposure, our resources, our availability to those that are males who can actually speak into our lives, who can actually become a great asset to us in that time of development. Now, once you reach manhood, do we no longer need a mentor? Do we no longer need accountability partner? Do we no longer need some type of spiritual leader, some type of therapist, some type of individual that we can counsel with? Do we stop with the resources because we reached manhood? No. I believe that we're ever so learning. I believe that we should continue learning ourselves, learning how to go deeper within so that we will learn and know more about ourselves. And I believe once we learn more about ourselves, we can better serve others. We can better understand through patience, through empathy, the things that are happening around us, things that are happening in other people's lives. So I wanted to come on and share another aspect of manhood because it's very important, and I'm realizing that you're just not able to change people. You can't change anyone. They have to make their own decisions, their own choices, and they have to want change in their lives. I've seen people go in and out of rehab. I've seen people just fight and go through rebellion to get better in a certain area of their life. And no matter what you do, no matter how helpful you are, no matter how much money you invest, unless a person wants change for themselves, they probably won't change. And so I'm going to say thank you for allowing me to share briefly about manhood. And I want you to put your comments in the comment section. I don't want you to forget to like, subscribe, share, and ring the notification button. And we'll be back for another episode to laugh with you, to inform you, to gain knowledge from you, because you play a huge part on this platform as well. And if you believe that this is something that is beneficial, then share it. Tell someone about them brothers from Inglewood, and join us on the podcast. We're going to start bringing others on. I wanted to do a live today, but I wasn't able to reach the person that I wanted to bring on so we can have some dialogue. But I'm going to talk about this subject again, and this time I'm going to have someone either physically in the studio or on the live so that we can chop it up and we can see other points of view. So manhood is a must. It is a process. Womanhood is just as important, and we're going to speak to that. We're going to get some women's point of view that will share with us, and that will bring some very important issues into light so that we can have dialogue. This is all about having dialogue. This is all about having communication and sharing ideas and concepts that are helpful. Our young people are hurting. Our young people are in need. Our young people need support. So I'm signing off. This car is coming to a stop, and we are so excited to bring you another episode. We look forward to talking with you and sharing with you soon. Take care. God bless.